most of us, I'm sure, are familiar with. He told him that he had been chosen to be Israel's deliverer. At that point in history, the children of Israel had spent 400 plus years as slaves in Egypt. They had come to a point where they were crying out for many years that God would deliver them. And so God raised up Moses, who at this point was living in the desert as a shepherd. And God shows up to him in a burning bush and says, Moses, I have chosen you to deliver my people from Egypt. So Moses questioned God. And in Exodus 3 says this, if I go to the people of Israel and I tell them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, they will ask me, what is his name? Then what should I tell them? Moses says, look, God, okay, I don't want to be the guy, but if I'm the guy, God, if you pick me to deliver the people and I'm supposed to go tell Israel that I'm the guy, they're going to say, well, who sent you? What is the name of this God who sent you? What am I supposed to tell them? And God replied to Moses, I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. Now we've talked about this idea before. This seems really strange. Moses wants a name, and God gives him this strange idea. Moses, you tell him, I am. And we look at that and we scratch our heads and go, I am what? And that's exactly what we should be asking. I am what? And God simply says, I am. And you go, what does that mean? Stop and think about it. God says, I am. That means he is it. Now, there's a lot to this, and our specific time together this morning isn't to pull apart every aspect of this name, but God is identifying himself here, and this is loaded with insight, but ultimately what he means is, I am ultimate. I am the ultimate being. There is no being like God, and as the ultimate being, whatever he says he will do, he can do, and he will do. In other words, when God says, I will, then you know that he will. Right? Now stop and think about that. We amen that, and that's great. But he is really the only one that's able to say that. You and I really can't say, I will, because only an ultimate being can really promise that. Stop and think about it. I might tell you that I will, but in reality, I don't know if I can. How many of you have ever had someone who told you that they will, and they didn't? Huh? Who hasn't? That's the question, right? So, because there are some people that say, I will, and they don't, because they're just flakes, and they flake out on it. You know, you ask them to do something, they go, oh yeah, shoot. And then the day comes, and they're not there. Right? You ever have that happen? Don't look at the person next to you, all right? We've all had that happen. Where people have said to us, yeah, I will, and they don't. We've all experienced that. Now, the reality is sometimes there are people that say, there are folks that tell us, I will, and they don't, but they legitimately didn't. There was something that came up that they hadn't planned for. They told you that they would be somewhere. I will be there. And on their way there, they got in a car accident, ended up in the hospital, and they couldn't be where they said they were going to be. It was a legitimate, I couldn't do it kind of thing. You wouldn't look at them and say, how dare you? I don't care if you broke both your legs. You should still be there. We understand that their I will got messed up because they didn't know what was going to happen, right? Somebody says, well, look, I'll do that for you. I will do that for you. And then they stepped in to do whatever it was, and they realized in the process of doing what they said they were going to do, they really didn't have enough knowledge to complete the task. They thought they did when they started out, but when they got deeper and deeper into it, they realized, I can't do what I said I was going to do. I was willing, but I'm not equipped. You see what I'm saying? So when we look at this idea, the only one truly that can follow through on an I will is an ultimate being. Because only an ultimate being knows all the contingents. He's never caught by surprise. He's never going to get, oh, that was an accident. I wasn't prepared for this. That's never going to happen. Well, I got in too deep. I didn't realize I didn't have knowledge of it. None of that's going to happen to an ultimate being. The point being is, when the I am says I will, it's as good as done. That's what I mean. So God says, I will, because I am. I'm the ever-present God who is infinite and unchangeable and all-powerful. Nothing catches me by surprise, and nothing can keep me from what I'm planning to do. I will. Now, here's the cool thing about it. And we talked a little bit about this already this morning. When we arrive in the New Testament, we discover on several occasions that Jesus identified himself with the same title, I am. In fact, if you go to the book of John, you can trace 7 times in the book of John that he uses this I am statement in relation to himself. And one of the more obvious examples of this, Clinton actually read at the beginning of the service this morning, and we didn't even compare notes that he was going to go there, but it's found in John chapter 8. And Jesus has this confrontation with the religious leaders, and he says this to these guys, your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Abraham saw Jesus? And this is what these guys say. So the Jews said to him, you're not even 50 years old, and have you seen Abraham? And Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was born, get it, I am. You go, oh, that seems kind of vague. Do you think they knew what he was saying? Next verse. Therefore, they picked up stones to throw at him. They knew exactly what he was saying. They knew that Jesus was making a proclamation that I am equal with God. I am. So here's the deal. The great I am of the Old Testament is the I am in the flesh in the New Testament. So whether it's God the Father or God the Son, when they say I will, it's as good as done already. So in this series, the series we're stepping into this morning, we're going to be looking at some of these I wills of the I am. Promises, warnings, and statements that are rock solid and certain as the God who made them. What the I am has said he will do, we're going to look at that closer and see how it impacts our life. We can't look at it all, but we're going to look at some key ones over these next several weeks. And this morning, we're going to start with this one that's found right here in Matthew chapter 11. Jesus says in verse 28, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. I don't know how that impacts you. That sounds nice to me. I will give you rest. And I just love the sounds of that. It's soothing and relaxing. It sounds like the good beginning of a slogan for a hotel chain or a mattress company. You know, a hotel chain that says, come sleep at our hotel. We'll give you rest. A mattress company that says, come lay on a mattress and find you rest. I don't know. Just talking about rest, it just kind of brings a smile to your lips, right? I mean, just because I don't know anybody that doesn't want rest. No, some of you come to church to rest. I know, because every week I see you. Just resting. And I find limited joy in that. Look, here's the reality. You may or may not get rest in somebody's hotel chain. You may or may not get rest on somebody's mattress. But when the I am says, if you come to me, I'm going to give you rest, you can know that you will find rest. Right? I mean, that's what we've laid as the foundation of what we're looking at here. The rest that is promised here is not a slogan, it's not an advertisement, it is a promise from God Himself. And before we get into the details of all of what this means, I want to give you a little background on what's going on in this chapter so we can better understand why Jesus would say that. See, sometimes I'm afraid, especially what happens as we look at the Gospels, we're reading the life of Jesus and we read these chapters and we think that it's just a spattering of all these different events that took place and they're just kind of thrown in there willy-nilly and they really don't have any kind of connection to each other. Folks, it's not true. All of these things connect and there's a purpose. See, John tells us in his Gospel that there were so many other things that Jesus did that aren't recorded. These are recorded because the Holy Spirit said, these are the things I want you to know and these are important. And there's a connection and a reason for why they're laid out the way they are. So very quickly, chapter 11 opens up and Jesus is going around different places doing what he does, preaching in these different regions, these different areas. John the Baptist at this point, if you remember John the Baptist, he is Jesus' cousin. And he's just a few months older than Jesus, and he was called John the Baptist because he baptized people. And at this particular point in John the Baptist's life, when we step into Matthew chapter 11, he's in prison. He's been in prison for his strong message of repentance to Israel, baptizing. And so Herod the king throws him in prison. He's been in there for quite a while now, several months. And he sends a couple of his men to go see Jesus. And they show up to Jesus, and they have a question for Jesus from John. And the question is this: Are you the Messiah? Or are we supposed to be looking for somebody else? Are you the guy? Or should we be waiting for somebody else? See, John's sitting in a prison because he has been proclaiming that Messiah was coming. He believed when Jesus showed up to be baptized by him, he believed that Jesus was that Messiah. You remember what he said? He said, "Look, the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world." John believed that Jesus was the God. But now he's sitting in prison. And he's having some second thoughts. Because, man, if Jesus is the king, what am I rotting in a prison cell for? Maybe I got it wrong. So he said, look, you need to go ask him if he's really the dude. Because look, I'm willing to give my life if he's the guy. But if he's not the guy, I don't want to die. So find out, is he really the Messiah? And Jesus tells these guys, well, what he didn't tell them maybe is more interesting than what he did tell them. He didn't tell them, look, you go back and you tell John, don't worry, I'm the guy. I'm Messiah. Everything's going to be okay. He doesn't tell them that. He tells them, you go back and tell John what you've seen and what you've heard. You tell John how you've seen the blind regain their sight. You tell John how you've seen the lame rise up and walk again. Tell John how the people with leprosy, you've seen them healed. Tell him how the people that are deaf that you've seen now hear. And then you tell John about the great news, the good news that I've been preaching to the poor. See, Jesus tells these guys, not point blank he's the Messiah. He tells these guys, you go tell John the evidence that points to the fact that God See, because John was a Jew. And John would have known the prophecies. Because John actually was the last of the Old Testament prophets. That's who John the Baptist was. John knew the Old Testament. He knew the prophets. He knew that Isaiah had said all of those things about the Messiah. That when the Messiah came, he would give sight to the blind. He would cause the lame to walk. He would heal the lepers. He would give hearing to the deaf. And he would preach good news to the poor. John would know when he heard all that, oh my goodness, he's the guy. So Jesus tells him, look, you go back and you let John know what you've seen and heard. Because that's what's going to convince him. Not me just saying, oh yeah, I'm the guy. Isn't that true of us? Don't we, instead of just some guy standing up and saying, oh, this is the fact, we want to see some evidences? Isn't that true of most of us? And that was true of John. John's sitting in a cell. He believed Jesus was the Messiah, but because of his circumstances, he started having doubts. Can you relate to that? Have you ever been there? You trusted Christ maybe a while ago, and things were going good, and life was cool, and then all of a sudden, life started smacking you up. It started hurting. And you started wondering, well, I thought when I became a Christian, everything was going to be okay. Well, whoever told you that, they're the ones going to get you slapped. Because this ain't true. Right? But have you been there? Can you relate to John? John's sitting in circumstances that have been radically changed. And he's trying to figure out, am I holding on to the right thing? He's a believer, but he's doubting. This is important. Hold on to that. Well, Jesus goes on in this chapter, and he talks John up a little bit more, and you can read more about that. But the next big thing that he gets into is he starts zeroing in on the people that don't believe in him. He starts saying, look, you guys don't believe because you want to believe the Messiah is somebody that you've already had preconceived ideas of. And because I don't fit your preconceived ideas, you're not going to believe it. In fact, this is very interesting. He says this in verse 16. What can I compare this generation to? It's like children playing a game in the public square. They complain to their friends, we played wedding songs, and you didn't dance. So we played funeral songs, and you didn't mourn. For John didn't spend his time eating and drinking, and you say he's possessed by a demon. The Son of Man, on the other hand, feasts and drinks, and you say he's a glutton and a drunkard, and a friend of tax collectors and other sinners. See, yeah, what does that mean, man? This is what he's saying. He's saying, yeah, you guys think this is some kind of a child's game. Like children play, they're singing a song, a wedding song, and you're not singing the song, and they go, you're not playing the game right. You ever seen kids do that? That's not the way you play! And Jesus, that's what he's saying here. You think this is some kind of a game like kids playing because we're not playing the way you think we should play. See, John, he's not eating, and you say he's possessed of demons. I, the Son of Man, I go out and eat and drink, and you say I'm a glutton and I hang around with sinners. We're not playing the game like you think we're supposed to play. And so you don't believe in us. Then he goes on from there, and he prophesies judgment on these folks. He says, look, I have done so many evidences, miracles, you should be believing in me. And guess what? Since you don't, it's going to be bad news on the day of judgment. So now Jesus, he's talked about John, this believer who's doubting because of his circumstances. Now he's zeroing in on unbelievers that don't believe, even though the evidence is there. And then in verse 25, he breaks out into this prayer. So, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, thank you for hiding these things from those who think themselves wise and clever, and for revealing them to a childlike. You see what he's saying? He's saying, look, John's this guy living out in the desert, eating locusts and eating wild honey, and he's just a redneck good old boy with camel hair on, and he's struggling with belief, but he's still holding on. And then we've got these religious boys over here that have gone to all the right schools and learned all the right stuff, and they're not believing. And Jesus could have got real frustrated, but he doesn't. He goes to the sovereignty of God and he says, God, I thank you that you have revealed it to who you want to reveal it. You've given it to the childlike, the ones who are simple and just go, you know what? I believe what I see. I believe what I hear. Instead of giving it to these guys that think they got it all together. That's the setup for what Jesus says in verse 28. He's dealing with a believer, a good guy who's doubting. And he's dealing with a bunch of unbelievers that just aren't going to believe. And he says, come to me, all you who are weary, and heavy, minds and eyes will give you rest. You see how important it is to understand the setup to what he's saying here? He's zeroing in on these two types of individuals. I want to zero in this morning on this rest. What specifically he's saying to us. And so first, let's look at the description of the rest. The rest Jesus is talking about here is not sleep. It's not what some of us do when we come to church. It's not sleep, okay? That's not what he's zeroing in. Look, many times we put those two together. Rest, sleep, the same thing. This is not what the picture that Jesus has in mind. Remember, God rested. Remember that whole deal after creation? It tells us in Genesis chapter 2, verse 2, that after the sixth day of creation, on the seventh day, God rested. Now, we know God doesn't get tired because he's all-powerful. He doesn't get wore out. He doesn't lose anything because he doesn't change. Right? We've talked about his immutability. He doesn't change. So he can't lose power or gain strength. So it wasn't that he was tired. Well, what is it? Well, that word simply means that he stopped. He ceased. He chilled. He was done. The word implies, if you would put this down, enjoyment. Remember what I said a minute ago? When we just stop and we think about even the word rest, it's kind of almost brings a smile to your face. There's a sense of enjoyment that already you feel just talking about the word and not even necessarily doing what it says. I don't know about you, but when I have a project or a job to do, like cleaning my yard, I'll spend a couple hours mowing the grass, getting the weed eater out, making sure everything's trimmed up, maybe having to rake a few things, pick some sticks up here and there, and maybe even having to trim a few bushes. And when I'm all done, I'm hot, dirty, sweaty, all done, I step back and I look at what I've done. Because I know it's not going to last very long. But I rest, even if it's just for a few minutes. And I go, oh man, it looks so good, right? I wash my truck, I get all washed out, clean the inside, and I step back and go, oh wow, it looks good for now. Right? You do that? Are you like that too? Tell me I'm not alone, right? That's the picture here. There's this sense of rest, this sense of enjoyment, this sense of just stop, just cease. That's the rest pictured here. We're the recipients of this rest. What he says, come to me, all of you who are weary. Weary. Remember, based on what we see in this chapter, there's two types of people pictured here. The first is a believer who was weary. John was that guy. See, the word weary here, in the original language, it's in the present tense, which means they were tired and they continued to be tired with no end in sight. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever felt tired and it was like, I'm tired, this isn't going to stop? It has nothing to do with going to bed at night. You go to bed and you know all the stuff that made you tired today is going to be there tomorrow, and so you're weary even when you go to sleep about tomorrow coming. And your weariness and your tiredness is ongoing, and you don't know when it's ever going to end. That's the picture here. See, John is sitting in prison, and he's been preaching, and he's been baptizing, and he's been ministering But he's having doubts because his circumstances have changed and things are tough, and he is a weary man. He is just flat wore out. Can you relate to that? Can you relate to that? See, there's stuff in life that just exhausts us. Things that shouldn't, but they do because we live in a fallen world. Things we find ourselves striving and trying, and we're just constantly exhausted. Things like issues with a spouse that just wear me down and wear me out, and I just don't see any end in sight. And I'm so tired. You don't know how many times I've heard that. You know what happens? I'm just tired. Just tired. How about a child? A wayward child, and you've prayed and you've tried and you've screamed and you've tried everything. And you're just tired. They don't understand. They don't hear. I just don't get it. And you are just worn out. Right? How about your work environment? Man, it just doesn't get any better. In fact, it's worse. There's this witch of a boss that I work for. She just continues to... Now, why would I use a woman? This jerk of a boss I work for, I got Judy on the front row, I got to be careful. Yeah, this old cranky guy. But your work environment, it's just overwhelming. It's like, just when you thought it could be bad, it gets worse. And it doesn't seem to have any end in sight. And you're just tired. I just want to quit, but I can't. Because I got 20 years in and I only got 5 more years. But I can't, I got it. And you're just tired. You're trying to do good and you're trying to do right. How about your finances? You ever been there with your finances? I just can't get ahead. We're just trying and trying and trying. And it seems like every time we get ahead, some other dumb thing happens. The washing machine goes out. The car breaks down and we just can't seem. I'm so tired. I'm so weary. This is the stuff of life, folks. This is what's going on, the stuff of life. Let me give you another one, because this is where John was, ministry. You're ministering, you're trying to reach people. Maybe it's some particular ministry in the church. You're involved in Awana, or you're involved in junior church, or you're involved in greeting or whatever, and you just feel like you're not making a difference, and you're just tired, you're just worn out. I just don't see it making any difference. And so, God, is this what I'm really supposed to be doing? I'm just tired. It's everywhere. God. Why, Lord, why should I study for another sermon? The last one didn't seem to work. Maybe, am I really supposed to be doing this, Lord? Is there somebody that needs a janitor or something? I think I would make a great janitor. No, I'm telling you, I would be amazing, Judy.
I know.
I would be the janitor of janitors. I've often thought about it, and I think they would eventually name an award after me if I was a janitor somewhere. And I think I would be happy. Until somebody used the bathroom. No, here's the reality. The reality is life is hard. Huh? Even as believers, life is tough. And we get weary and we get tired. And too many times we just try to tough it out or we push through. And the circumstances of life just wear us down. And Jesus is saying, man, look, I'm for you. Come to me and I'll give you rest. The second type of person in view here is an unbeliever who's weary. See, this is a little bit different. An unbeliever needs to come to Jesus to find rest because they're carrying the heavy load and guilt of their sin. You see, there's so many unbelievers that don't want to do that. They want to try to figure it out for themselves. They're going to carry that load as long as they can and try to do whatever they can to make themselves feel better. Oh, they'll come to church. See, Jesus doesn't say here, he doesn't say come to church and you'll find rest. He says come to me and you'll find rest. So you can come to church and not come to Jesus. You realize that, right? So a lot of people, they'll go to church to try to find some kind of solace for the guilt that they're feeling. and I'm doing this good thing, and they'll do good things for people, trying to find some way to not feel so burdened with their sin. And Jesus said, until you come to me, you're going to feel that burden. You're going to feel that guilt. People try everything. They'll try to dull it. They'll try to put it aside. They'll try to ignore it. But the burden and the pain is still there. Someone said it once like this, that within inside everybody is this God-shaped hole. And the only thing that's going to fit in that hole is God. We try to fit all the other kind. It's like that game that we used to play with our preschoolers, with all the different shapes, and they're supposed to take the shape, and they always try to make the square fit in the circle. And we go, no, over here. And they go, no, I'm going to go here. And they keep doing it. Right? And we live life like that. If I just take enough of this, if I spend enough time doing this, if I involve myself in this, that'll fill that hole. And what is that? That is the weariness and the weight and the guilt of sin that can only be satisfied by Jesus. And Jesus said, come. See, he's got two types of individuals in view in this chapter. He's got the John, the believer, who's struggling because of his circumstances and because of the weight of life. And he's got these other unbelievers who should be feeling the weight of their sin, but they're denying it. So what are the requirements of this rest? It's real easy. It's right there. You guys could have written the sermon. It's so easy because it's right there. Here's the first requirement. Come. Right? Then Jesus said, come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. He doesn't say, come to me and I will let you buy rest from me. Come to me and I'll give you a little bit of rest at a time. He said, you come and I will freely give you rest. And this rest is only found in Him. People try to do different things. To even Christians, I'm amazed at how many people that call themselves followers of Jesus try so many other things to find rest for the weariness that they're going through. They'll go to a therapist for counsel. Right? And I'm not saying that's wrong, but if that's your primary source to find rest, you will not find it there. I don't care how good a therapist they are. We go to doctors because if I just have the right pill, I know what it is. My serotonin levels are down. And if I get my serotonin up to a certain level, I'll feel happy again. Well, and again, I don't want to deny the reality that some people do have some chemical issues that require medication. But folks, not as many people that go to the doctor for issues relating to depression need the medication. There's no way you can tell me that the drug companies are making all this money on all these people because we have this major chemical imbalance that's affected our entire country. We have a major problem with people who are carrying the weight of their sin and the burden of life, and they're trying to figure it out. And so to try to dull it, they go to a doctor and he says, here, take this. And at best, it's going to give you reprieve for a short period of time. But the struggle and the burden and the pain is still there. We go to bars. Maybe if I drink enough, I'll forget about my burden and my problem. Maybe it'll make it a little bit easier. And again, I'm not talking about just unbelievers. I'm talking about Christian folk that I know. We live for the weekend. We live to party because life is so miserable that when I get to Saturday, maybe I somehow can drown it out. And then Sunday I'll go to church and try to balance it out. And everything will be okay. Because God's a God of grace, right? So He'll forgive me what I did on Saturday. Friends. I drown myself in my friends. I want to keep busy so that I don't have to deal with my issues. Family. I immerse myself in my family. I'm a family man. I'm a family woman. But really what it is I'm so miserable and I'm carrying around so much junk. I just need something to distract me so that I don't have to deal with it. You say, but wait a minute, Randy, isn't family good? Is that? Yeah, but listen, even friends are good. All that stuff's good. But if it's done for the wrong reason, it's wrong, right? Church. I go to church. I'm trying to, at least once a week I can find rest. I don't see that in this passage. I don't see where Jesus is saying, look, I'm going to give you one day for about an hour and a half on Sunday morning to get rest. That's not what He's saying here. You say, what's it require? Would you put this down in that bullet point? It requires humbly admitting. See, a person will never come to Jesus without first humbly admitting that they need him. See, the unbeliever needs to come and say, I know I can't get to heaven without Jesus. I know I can't do anything about my sin on my own. I can't go to church enough. I can't be good enough. I can't give enough. I know I need Jesus. That takes a humble admission. And the Christian who's already come to Jesus but is carrying the weight of their sin or just the burden of life, they've got to be humble enough to go, yeah, you know what? I needed Jesus for salvation, and I also need him for life. Amen. And some of us think we got the ticket to heaven, so we're good, and I got it for the rest of my life. And that is just nuts, folks. You just can't do it. There's some folks here this morning, or I should say there's some folks that aren't here this morning because that's what they've been trying, and it ain't working. And their lives are demonstrating. They're hurting, weary, burdened people. What's the second requirement? Well, the first one's come, the second one's take. So if your Bible's like my Bible, I'd take your pen and circle, come and take. Right? Because that's what Jesus is telling me something. And he says, what? Take my yoke upon you. Would you put this down in the bullet point? This requires dependently submitting. Some of you know what a yoke is, but let me tell you what a yoke is. Next slide, please. This is a yoke. A yoke is a device, and it is a device that connects two ox together while they're plowing. It connects them in such a way that they're working together. They're working in team. God says, look, Jesus says, take my yoke upon you. What's he saying? Connect with me. Be connected to me. Not so that we can help him. He doesn't need our help. He is the great I am. It's so we can get help from him. He goes, look, if you will connect with me, if you'll take my yoke upon you. See, here's the problem. We come to Jesus for salvation, and we say, yes, I need you for salvation. And then Jesus says, look, take my yoke, connect with me, because I'll get you through life. See, that's the picture of this plowing through the field. That's life, man. It's just sometimes like plowing. And Jesus said, you connect with me, and I'll get you through life. We'll get through this thing together. And we'll go, shoot, yeah, that sounds good. And we're going through life with Jesus, yoked to and connected to, and all of a sudden, squirrel! and we get distracted, and we start fighting the yoke, right? And Jesus, he's still plowing the line, and we're fighting the yoke, looking around, look at this thing over here, looks so good. And we're fighting this thing. And what happens when you fight against the yoke? You get no rest. It was so fun. Lenny and Adele Lee were here last month, and Lenny was telling us that I think it was for his 81st birthday, he went skydiving. Can you imagine? Yeah. 81 and you're jumping out of a plane. I'm 25 and I wouldn't jump out of a plane. 81, he's jumping out of a plane. Well, the thing that was even more exciting is he had a little video of it. Video of him jumping out of this plane. Now, here's the deal. He didn't just jump, he just grab a parachute, strap it on, jump out of the plane. He did have a parachute on, but he also had a buddy on. He had this guy strapped to his back. This guy was a master skydiver. He had literally jumped out of planes thousands of times. I forget how many times. It was several thousand times this guy had jumped out of a plane. Nothing. He jumped out 4 or 5 times a day. This guy would take people up and jump out of a plane. He was a master skydiver. And Lenny was hooked to him. And the amazing thing about this, and here's Lenny, here's this guy struggling. You can see the guy, you can't hear, but you can see the guy talking into Lenny's ear. And then they jump out of the flame together. And the video is still going, and all you see is Lenny with this big smile on his face. And I don't know how fast they're falling, I'm imagining several hundred miles an hour, and the wind's going into his cheeks are doing this. But he's happy. He's not like, ah, ah! No, he's loving life, man. And every once in a while the video pans out and you can see this is for real. He's not, staging this deal. They are way up there. You can see the fields down below, and he's falling, and they're falling together, strapped together with this master skydiver who knows what he's doing because he's done it. And he knows. And as long as Lenny just relaxes and lets the master do what he does, he can enjoy it. Even though Lenny was jumping out of the plane, he was at rest. Because the master was in control. See, when you're connected to the master, you can rest even when you're plowing the field. And that's what Jesus is saying. He's saying, look, take my yoke. And here's number 3. Learn. He says in verse 25, let me teach you because I'm humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Let me teach you there, literally translated is, learn from me. Learn from me. And would you put this down? It requires consistently learning. See, going back to our ox thing again, because that's the analogy Jesus used. When they would hook these oxen up together, typically an older, experienced ox would be linked with a younger, inexperienced ox. And the younger ox was supposed to learn how to do the job from the older ox. And that's the picture that Jesus is giving. And look, learn from me. As you're connected to me, I want to teach you how to do life. That marriage that you're weary of, I want to teach you how to do it. Those kids that are driving you nuts, I want to teach you how to get through it. That job that you're so tired and weary of, if you'll just stay connected and let me teach you, I'm going to get you through this thing. See what he's saying? And he's saying when you do that, guess what? You can do it. You can go through this motion. You can be at work. You can be in this marriage. You can be parenting. You can be doing this ministry. Whatever it is you can be doing, but you can be at rest. You go, wait a minute. I thought rest meant to cease everything. No, it means to cease trying to do it on your own. See, because Jesus, He never promised that we wouldn't have burdens. In fact, look what He says there in verse 30. My yoke is easy to bear. Look, and the burden I give you is light. Jesus said, you're going to have a burden. In fact, in John chapter 16, Jesus said, look, in this world, you are going to have trials and sorrows. Do I hear an amen on that? That's what I found in this world, full of trials and sorrows. So Jesus isn't giving us some pie in the sky kind of stuff here. He's not saying, hey, come to me and cruise through life, man. Let's be easy set. That's not what He's saying. What He's saying is, I will lighten your burden. It's going to be there. But see, when you're connected with me, it changes everything. Not long ago, I went to the airport to pick some folks up and greeted them when they came in. And we talked for a few minutes. And then I went over to grab their bags. They were the last ones up. And this was a pretty big suitcase. You know how those holidays do. And I went over there, and I grabbed the suitcase, and not only was it big, it was heavy. And I picked this thing up, and I started walking with it, and the guy says, hey, it's got wheels. And so I put it down, I looked, and sure enough, it had wheels. And so I popped that puppy up on its end, pulled the handle up, and started walking. The weight of that bag didn't change. That bag was still as heavy as it was when I pulled it off the baggage claim area. The difference was I had some wheels that were changing the weight for me. See, that's what Jesus is saying here. You're still going to have burdens. There's still going to be life. There's going to be trials. But what I want you to do is I want you to come to me, connect with me, learn from me, and then I'll change the weight of those burdens. I'll give you some spiritual wheels that you can put those burdens on, and together we'll get through this thing. Amen?
Amen.
Would you bow your heads, please?